All right, welcome to Tampa's first recording. This is our new studio here, and I have an amazing, awesome, epic guest. I always do, but this time I've been watching him on so many different stages, so many different platforms, reach millions and millions of people and actually make a difference. So I get to introduce you today to Scott Mann. Say hello to everyone.
Oh, hey, I didn't know it was me. I thought someone's got to get up out of my chair. You're the epic guest. But,
yeah, right.
Thanks, man.
No, man, always humble. So if you don't know who Scott Mann is, Jackson, throw it in. So Scott Mann is a family man. He's a Green Beret retired lieutenant colonel, TEDx speaker, New York Times bestseller, playwright, podcaster, actor. He's basically just a thought leader that actually makes a huge difference in the world, never stopped serving even when he hung up the uniform. That's how I've always thought of him. But I'm going to ask the question I always ask. Scott, how do you describe yourself whenever someone asks you who you are?
I struggle with that question more than any other question ever. I've been out of the military for probably nearly 15 years, and I struggle with that question. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like, even if someone asks me, like, what do you do? Or I struggle because, and I think a big reason is I am still figuring it out. I still am reinventing myself and trying to figure out how to be relevant. I think what I have figured out is I am Rex and Anita Mann's son, you know, and the older I get, the more that really means something to me.
Yeah. You still have your parents?
I lost my dad this summer, and I think that's why one reason why it's just so clear to me now why that's such a strong statement. And I'm a storyteller, you know, and I'm still figuring out what that means too. But I just know that, like, storytelling saved my life. It gave me my life back, and it's given me a bridge to so many other things. And so I know that I'm definitely a student of story.
Man, that's powerful. I'm gonna dig in a little bit on that.
Yeah.
Because I read something recently and it made me text my dad because I lost my mom.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
But yeah, and I'm sorry about your dad. But the text said, you only get one copy of your dad. There's no carbon copy. You'll never get another one.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And, you know, like, he was my guy. Like, he was, you know, I called him my Ranger buddy, even that he was a career wildland firefighter, 43 years in the United States Forest Service, fought these epic fires. But to me, he was just the guy that, like, didn't matter what it was, he was there. Like, you know, that wrote me letters in Ranger School. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
but strong letters probably.
Yeah, and all the time. Like, and even when the internet became prolific, he's still writing me letters. And he was just there for everything. And man, when he left, it cut a hole in my heart the size of North Carolina. Like, it hit hard. Yeah.
And those letters, do you have one in mind that just, like, what's the first time you ever opened up a letter from him and you're like, dang, he wrote me?
I think probably the ones that really hit me the hardest were like when I was in Afghanistan, my first tour. And I think that was my first time to truly be exposed to combat. You know, I'd been in SF for a while and you know, Central and South America, and you see versions of combat, I guess, but that was the first time I had been exposed to it on a prolonged basis and actually, you know, saw the scale of loss. And he would write me these letters. It was as if he knew what was going on in my mind and what was going on in my heart. And he could always just help me just make sense of the next 10 minutes through those letters, like when I really needed it. And you know, now I look back on that and I think, man, what a gift to just sit down and, you know, write someone a letter like that in the 2000s. I mean, who does that?
Yeah. I had something similar. My grandpa was in MacPhee and he used to send me cameras. He's like, hey, take pictures. I'm like, we can't do that. That's classified. One, but two, it made me think about the conversation I was having on paper with somebody who's a real warrior, which is your dad he's a real man. Like,
for sure, man. And you know, one of the pieces of advice he gave me, Atlas, that changed my life forever. It was when I was getting ready to ship out to Afghanistan in 2004, and we were downstairs and he was an Appalachian country boy, you know, but super profound and strategic in thought. And we were just talking about my deployment. I could tell it was weighing on him. And he said, you know, Scotty, one of the things I want you to do on this deployment, he said, I know you're going to have a lot of time, but I want you to journal. And I want you to journal every single day while you're there. And I, at this time, you know, I thought I kind of had it all figured out. And I said, Dad, like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to. He's like, trust me. And he stopped what he was doing. He was cleaning a piece of furniture and he looked at me and he said, I fought wildland fires for 4 decades. And he goes, the one regret I have is I wrote nothing down.
Wow.
So I promised him I would. And I did. And I've got journals from, you know, where like you could like literally, there's lines on the page from where I fell asleep writing, or, you know, tears on the page would, you know, on days like when Charlie and Alan died, but I never missed a day. And to this day, like 15 years later, I journal every day. Like I still journal, and what a life-changing piece of advice that was. And as I get older, I realize just how right he was about, you know, crystallizing that learning like that.
Man, I don't want to skip this point at all because it's just a lot of powerful things that are being said. And if they're not being picked up, I mean, you lost people. You just said their names, you know, Charlie, and you incorporated that into your writing as a playwright now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that journey. And did your dad have anything to do with that journey because of the journaling that he set you off on?
Man, he really did, because he was such a great storyteller. And, you know, even we were just so close, and he was passionate about the natural resources of this world. Like he when he left the Forest Service, he wanted to restore the American chestnut tree, which was killed by a blight or functionally extinct by a blight in the early 1900s. And so as a story coach, I helped coach him. He did his first TED Talk at 70, or he did his TED Talk at 73.
Wow.
And you should check it. It's an amazing talk.
We're going to throw it up there.
All right. It is to watch this mountain man tell this story about restoring this tree through good science. But where I was going with that was he was just a beautiful storyteller, and he just made me fall in love with storytelling. But all of my work, whether it was my writing, my plays, he was always the guy I would send the first manuscript to before anybody saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
he was your
he
first
was a big influence, man, like big. And so the play, you know, I'm thinking like, okay, I'm 51 years old. I've never written a friggin' play. I've certainly never acted. And, you know, what if the guys in the regiment find out that I'm doing this? Like, so I would sneak up to New York and study acting.
You would sneak up there?
Yeah. I would fly up there twice a month because I didn't want anybody to know.
Who did you study under?
Well, I studied under Carl Bury and Larry Moss.
Okay.
And, you know, I had zero background.
Yeah.
And this is a play I've written about, you know, 3 team sergeants that I knew, that I wrote them into one composite character named Danny Patton, and those guys didn't come home. So I wanted to tell the story of an NCO, you know, even though I was an officer. I felt like we hadn't done a good job of that. And I wanted it to be in live theater, you know, because I feel like there's something about from the stage and I wanted to do it myself. And I wanted my cast to be veterans and military family members. So that was my vision. And it took me like 6 years, man, to put this play together, and a lot of bleeding on a page. And but we finally kicked this thing off in 2019 on Veterans Day, and it was pretty powerful, and it's still touring to this day.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when you kicked it off, and I was sharing it with people. I was like, "This is amazing," because there's a lot of courage. It takes a lot of intestinal fortitude to do what you did. You stated it earlier. Green Berets don't write plays, so you know it's a step into an unfamiliar zone. But Green Berets also always go into that unfamiliar, and they come out victorious. So I knew it was going to be awesome. I didn't realize it was going to be that awesome.
It was a great experience for me in the sense that I didn't have any clue what I was doing, but what I did learn from amazing NCOs and special forces was when you don't know what you're doing, surround yourself with people who do.
Amen.
Right? And then just listen like your life depends on it. And that's what I did. I thought, okay, I don't know how to write a play. I don't know how to perform at all on the stage. Yeah. And, you know, my acting coach, I got a really good one. And he said, look, the thing that kept you alive in combat is going to kill you on stage. Everything that you've learned about surviving in a low trust, high risk environment is to keep that stuff beneath the chest plates, right? I mean, yeah, you have to show up authentic and make connections, but the vulnerability that is required in storytelling and in theater to allow an audience to feel, you have to take all that off.
Yeah.
Right. If not, then you're just going to internalize everything and you cheat them out of feeling it. Right. Which is typically what veterans and a lot of people who've been through trauma do. We push it down.
Well, that's what we think we're supposed to do.
Right. So I had to learn how to go the opposite direction of what I had done most of my adult life, which was push it down, and just internalize. Instead, I had to take the armor off. I had to just connect with my breath and let that thing breathe and fall apart, in front of people over and over again, so that they could feel what they needed to feel in that moment, whether it was a Gold Star mother or a wounded veteran or a civilian that had never heard the crack of a round. The key was, could they locate themselves in that story? And to do that, you've got to be completely generous with everything.
Your audience, when you were writing for this,
right?
How did you think about who you were going to touch? Because before you answer that, let me just preface this if you haven't seen this, he's touched politicians, he's touched military officers, he's touched the military people that have been there and seen it. And that's not a big community, by the way. So to touch people who have seen the things that they're now seeing on stage, that's extremely powerful.
Yeah.
And I want to know how you did that.
Well, I personally, for me, it was kind of a God thing. I look back on, and you're a creative, so I think you get this, but I don't remember doing it. I have no conscious recollection of writing this piece. So
when you were writing, did you get something and you wrote it down immediately? And if you didn't, did you lose it?
Yeah, it's very fleeting. And what I did know was this. I knew that, a big impetus for me was my son. My son was 3 when the towers fell, my oldest son, and he wanted to go in the Army. And I'm thinking, man, people don't even know we're in Afghanistan right now. And my kid's going to go fight a war that I couldn't finish. And that kept coming to me. That's something about that just really haunted me. And I thought, that's the essence of the play, is that my character, Danny Patton, is wrestling with the world's longest, or our longest war. And his son wants to go fight the war he couldn't finish. How does he handle that? And so I knew that. And then I also knew that I wanted to write it for civilians. It wasn't about writing it for veterans. I didn't think that way. I thought, I want civilians to understand I want them to feel it in their chest cavity.
Yeah.
What it feels like to hold your buddy in his final moments, or to make a decision that was the wrong decision, or to say goodbye to your wife at the airfield. As close as I can take them to that, I want to take them to that place. And theater allows you to do that, right? And I knew that. So my target audience was civilians. It just so happened that Gold Star family members, veterans, and others located themselves and felt validated when I did it.
Yeah, I felt validated there. Every time you crack the scene with a radio noise, it's validating.
Well, because it's your story.
Yeah. So, you put so many pieces that are small to most people, or they get overlooked, that are so impactful to people, like the people that have been there.
Yeah.
And to actually tell that story, it's more weight than, say, a book, which you've written multiple successful books. It's more weight than putting it on TV, which comes today and goes tomorrow. It's something that people will hold with them and carry with them, and their family can then understand. And so my next question to you is, how do you continue molding this? Because you've got another play coming, right?
It's out. We're touring it now.
You're touring it now.
We just finished up in New York City.
Oh my gosh. How did it go?
Oh my God. The premiere was here in Tampa in December. And, it's based on Operation Pineapple Express, the botched withdrawal, and more specifically, our little group of veterans who stood up to help, right? And get as many folks out as we could. So in this play, it's different than Last Out, which tells the story of an NCO and his family navigating the war. This is the ending of the war, right? Mm-hmm. But it's the story that didn't get told. It's what our veterans and their families went through as this, and our allies.
Yeah.
So I do 24 characters in 90 minutes.
24.
Yep. It's a one-man play. It's crazy.
That's nuts, man.
It's crazy. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, Atlas. We wrote and trained for 13 months for this play. It has been a slog.
I've had a few actors on my show, and all of them say it's the hardest thing to encapsulate one character. You got 24.
Well, and it's so I play myself in it as I go through it and kind of fall apart. But then I also play, Jesse Kennedy, the first sergeant on the ground with the White Devils at Abbey Gate. I play Hasina Safi, the most wanted woman in Afghanistan, who's the Minister of Women's Affairs running through a crap trench, to get out. So you're switching these characters and, they're radically different. Some of them are different genders, some of them are Afghans, and they all have a different emotional point of view and an urgency. And you don't really have time to drop it. You've got to pivot on a dime and you've got to stay in front of the audience as it goes, and it builds and it builds and it builds. And it has been the wildest experience of my life in storytelling, because you have to go into it takes me 5 to 6 hours per show just to get in this theater and build up to those characters before the curtain drops.
Wow, Scott. I mean, that's dedication at a new level.
I love the craft.
Yeah. Well, obviously you can tell because it comes out on stage and people love going to see you perform. But where is this going? How long are you going to continue doing this?
I'll hit it, if I could real quick. I want to share something with you that
please.
I love your audience to see. Is we filmed one performance of 11 Days in Tampa on the final night that we were in Tampa in December, and I'm going through the performance, and there's a part where I turn and I look at the clock, and you see it's counting down to Abbey Gate, to August 26th, 5:48 p.m. And it's counting down. And then the clock becomes my enemy for the rest of the play, because it's coming.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm narrating this. As I show the clock and I turn to face it, I hear this wail from the audience. And I mean, it's a wail that only a Gold Star family member can do. I've done the plays long enough to know when a Gold Star member is in the audience, and you cannot mistake it.
Gold Star, for people who may not know, is someone who's lost somebody in combat.
That's right. And so when I heard that, I realized there is a family member from the Abbey Gate explosion in this audience from when the suicide bomber struck.
I got chills.
Yeah. And so it turned out it was Paula Knaus, Ryan Knaus's mom. Wow. And so I'm going through the play, and the rest of the play is about, the countdown to that explosion. And every time it would show the clock, her wails would get louder. And, when the lights came up though, and we've got it on video, that was the most validating moment in my life, for this craft. That's when I realized, okay, yeah, this has got to keep going. What she said on that stage, and we'll let your folks take a look at it, but it's why I do it.
Hey, Jackson, let's throw that in there.
On behalf of Army Staff Sergeant Ryan Christian Knaus, keep telling your story. His name will not fade, nor any of them, nor should it. And we will keep walking the walk to never forget. Thank you. We feel the spark in us. We got the
That's amazing. So where are you going now?
So we are, the way we're doing the show is it's a complete nonprofit effort. Gary Sinise,
really,
he got really involved with the first play Last Out in 2023.
Yeah.
He saw Pineapple Express doing what we were doing, and he heard about the play, and he's a theater guy himself, and he's like, hey, so he ended up sponsoring the play in 2023.
Wow.
And we became friends, and he is just such a great human. And when he learned about this one, he said, how can I help? And this 2026 is the 250th anniversary of the United States. It's the 25th anniversary of 9/11, and it's the 5th anniversary of the Afghanistan withdrawal. It's a lot anniversaries. So I told Gary, I said, look, we want to just go places and tell the story, where we can make an impact and people can understand what it means to honor a promise and what happens when you don't. It's not political. It's not about this administration or that administration. It's about, what veterans believe to be true and the relationships that they build in combat and what happens to them when you abandon that and you abandon them. And that's what this is all about. And so he's like, got it. So we're in the process right now of plotting out cities. We're gonna go all over the United States. tfpineapple.org has our tour schedule. We're even looking to hopefully go to Canada and perform it up there in honor of our Canadian brothers and sisters that fought there. Maybe even Europe for NATO.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
And if people are watching, part of my community is in Canada and the UK and Australia. If you want that, definitely check out the link.
100%.
It's down in the comments. But let us know. Send Scott a note and say, hey, come see us. We want to know which cities. So put those. Let us know on that. But it's just an amazing. It takes a lot of work to do what you're doing, and I know it's got to be like a big mission that you feel called to do, to be able to perform as much as you are.
I think, like when we went back to the original part of the interview, we talked about, storytelling. Mm-hmm. I had a really bad transition from the military in 2013, and I almost checked out. Like I almost took my own life. It got dark, and had it not been for a couple of mentors that turned me on to storytelling, I wouldn't be here. There's no doubt in my mind. It was, for me, it was a thing that I was able to latch onto and use it to make sense of things that made no sense.
Yeah, with your struggle.
With the struggle, and to talk about that struggle in a way that was not about me, or that it was, dumping or pity. It was more about, or victimhood. It was literally about putting it out there and allowing other people to locate themselves in that struggle, in that moment, and go, yeah, that was me too. And that's the thing that I've since learned about storytelling as I've become a coach in it and worked all over the world with it, is that storytelling isn't just universal. Struggle, is a biological necessity. Like we all have it, we all go through it. And if you want to really connect with people, stories that integrate struggle are the most impactful stories in the world.
Why is that?
So the reality is that when our brains are metaphorical pattern matching organs. So the brain has a mandate to make sense of the world, and it uses story to do it. Well, the way that it does it is it uses a struggle to resolution kind of model. So we're always we're goal oriented, and as we pursue goals, we hit struggles. And it's as we go through those struggles or obstacles, and we experience struggle, on the other side of that is resolution, right? We learn things, we change, and that's where the gold lives. But the crazy part is, humans, the way we listen to story, like for example, if it was 10,000 years ago and I stumbled into the fire pit around the campfire, and I'm all bloodied up, and I'm like, let me tell you why saber-toothed tigers make crappy pets. Everybody is like, no one's looking around, distracted. Everybody's listening like their life depends on it, because it does.
Yeah.
Right. And so the struggle in that moment became the place where I located myself in your story.
Yeah.
And I go on this narrative transportation where now I'm listening as if that saber-toothed tiger attacked me too. It's called autobiographical listening. And you're literally processing your own lived experience in the safety of someone else's story. So my loss of my father allows you to connect to the loss of your mother.
Yeah.
And that's where we locate each other. And that's where we accelerate trust. And nowadays, no one does it. But the key is that our brains haven't changed, man. If you want to lead somebody through this churn of AI and everything else, it's the first time they locate themselves and choose you is in struggle.
Yeah. It brings me to a question, because you've been in so many worlds. So one of the things I threw out the feelers and said, if you have any questions for Scott, can you send them to me? Here's one of the questions that came out.
Okay.
As someone who's worked across the military, corporate, and nonprofit worlds, what universal truth or principles applies to all of those in context of storytelling?
No struggle, no story.
That's it?
No struggle, no story. Like, and there's one more, is what's personal is universal. A lot of times we think that, oh, well, no one wants to hear this, or it's not that big of a deal. It's not as big as your story. Like I hear this a lot from civilians. Yeah, I wasn't in the military,
too.
Right? And so they dismiss themselves or they diminish themselves. And the reality is, veterans, Gold Star family members, none of us have the market cornered on trauma, grief, or struggle. What's personal is universal. In other words, what you went through as a C-suite executive, I don't know what's below the waterline there, but I guarantee you there are struggles and obstacles that you've gone through that if you talk about them with authenticity, I'm going to put my phone down.
Yeah.
And I'm going to locate myself in your story. And all of a sudden now we have a connection that is 10x what it would have been if you'd have shown me PowerPoint, you know? And so that's the thing that I try to get across to people is, and then the third thing that I would say that I see across all boundaries is it's not necessarily the stories that you tell in these times of low trust. It's the stories you ask to hear, right? Like if you can get in the habit of asking thoughtful, open-ended questions that start with what and how, and that really allow the other party to respond in story, man, it's a game changer.
How do you ask the questions to get those type of responses? Because, you know, when you go and do consulting work, it's probably pretty cake for you because you go in, you ask the people to do the work, what's your problems? And they're like, oh, I'm glad you asked.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm not careful, what'll happen is my own internal resistance will talk me out of the room. Like I'll start feeling that imposter syndrome and like, what's a Green Beret doing in a room with a bunch of commercial bankers? Right?
Yeah.
What could I possibly offer to these? So my own imposter syndrome, or whatever you want to call it, my resistance, as Stephen Pressfield calls it, right? The self-sabotage. That's the biggest enemy I face, and I think most of us face. So in those moments, what I've learned to do as a Green Beret, what my father taught me to do is, that's not what you're there to do. It's about them. It's not about you anyway. So can you see the pictures in their head? You know, because until you can, and even Chris Voss says this, never split the difference. If you can't see the pictures in the head of the other party in terms of their goals and pain, you're not relevant anyway. Like you're just spewing your own crap, right? So, you know, the first thing on human connection is I got to see the pictures in your head. So what I try to do is I come at it with that intention. Is I'm going to be like, I'm not going to say a thing about me or what I'm pitching or what I think until I'm absolutely crystal clear that I see the pictures in your head based on the questions I ask and the narratives you give back to me. And when I think I have it, I'm going to say it back to you. And if you say something like, that's right, then you're probably ready to listen to me.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of somebody I used to work for. General Evans used to do that. He would get the brief and he'd be like, this is what I understand of what you just told me. And they would like, yeah, but this. And it's just the additives that you never would have got if you didn't frame the question to begin with.
There's a book by Warren Berger called The Book of Beautiful Questions, I think is the name of it. But he uses this, he calls it questionology. But I just love it because like you said to me, like, how do you ask those questions? There are like universal questions, honestly. Generally the ones that start with what and how. Yeah. For some reason in these times that we live in, I avoid why.
I hate the word why.
Because it sounds accusatory.
It's bad.
Yep.
It's bad.
It implies like, you know, you did something wrong, even if you are truly wanting to understand the purpose. Yeah. I think you can get to why, but I don't think it's a good introductory set of questions when you're scoping out with a client or asking your boss for guidance. Like a better approach is something to the tune of, well, how do you think we got here? Or what would you do differently if you could do that again? And, you know, and then really listen with pure discovery. And it's astounding. The context, the meaning, the trust acceleration that you can get in like 3 minutes. You know, even if you want to test it, you know, go to your local convenient mart on the way home and just look at that little clerk behind the counter and just stop and really look at that clerk and just say, what's the best thing that happened to you today? Or what has really pissed you off today? You know, and after they pick themselves up off the floor,
because
they will tell you, you know, and it's really, the cool thing is you can practice this everywhere. I think storytelling in real time is 2/3 the questions that we ask and the stories we get back.
Yeah, it's two-way and everyone's trying to have one way. I see most people with their heads in their phones and they're watching something that's fed to them. Yeah. And the conversation pieces that we're talking about now seem to be going away. Do you fear that storytelling is going to forever be forgotten in the future?
In my new book, Generosity of Scars, that's coming out in May, it's in my conclusion chapter. My opening quote is from a gentleman who basically says, the age of storytelling is coming to an end. And when that happens, if that happens, our species comes to an end. Because what I don't think people understand in this dimensional age, you know, this digital dimensional age, is that right? This digital dimensional age, that's not right. In this digital age is that we are still Neanderthals who just dress a little better. Like our brains have not changed since we've stomped around this earth. Like for the most part, we are story animals. We use story to make sense of the world. We use stories to connect. We use stories to bridge. Yeah. And we are now dismissing stories in favor of this short form, two-dimensional conversation and information approach it is actually dividing us. And more importantly, it's isolating us. And so what I say to folks is, for example, the Wall Street Journal just came out with an article saying that like storytellers are like the number 2 sought after skill set. And I think the reason for that, Atlas, is because no one knows what's real anymore, right? No one knows what's real. And so the only way to know what's real and authentic and that what makes you feel safe is a storyteller. And I think as we go through these tough times that we're in, I think the storytellers are going to be the ones that own the room. But if we're not careful, we're going to lose the craft. I mean, that's really why I wrote the book, because I wanted to put something out there that gave everyday leaders permission to repurpose their struggles in the service of others through storytelling.
Yeah. So I'm a huge fan, obviously, of storytelling, and I've seen it work in multiple billionaires' lives.
Yeah.
They all talk about the power that they can wield whenever they tell the right origin story, the makeup story.
Yeah.
You're selling the whole, not the drill.
Yeah.
There's a story art that I don't see it being taught anywhere.
No, it's called the hero's journey. You see it in every movie. Joseph Campbell coined it in The Hero with 1,000 Faces, but essentially the framework is the hero, hears a call and leaves the ordinary world reluctantly and goes on a journey. And on that journey, the hero is pursuing a goal from that tap on the shoulder and ends up in the belly of the whale and struggle.
Yeah.
And the struggle might be inside, outside, or both. And in that struggle meets a guide who comes to their aid and gives them a gift. And then eventually the hero overcomes those struggles, maybe doesn't achieve her goal, but she overcomes the struggle and she returns home from that journey changed and with a gift for the people, which is resolution and what they learned. And if you think about it, that is the Marine coming home from Iraq. Yeah. That is the corporate CEO who stands in front of her junior associates at an all-hands meeting after a rough bout with COVID, right? And all of us have those. I can remember one CEO that I coached, because I coach a lot of senior executives on how to tell their stories. And one of them just had lost the connection with his people big time.
Yeah.
And the score surveys showed it. We did some work together, and it turns out that this individual, the reason that was so disconnected from his people was he had put the armor on because he had actually lost his mom to a mental health situation when he was in high school. She ended up he had to talk her up from taking a razor blade off her throat.
Wow.
Yeah, and then she was committed to an asylum. And he never saw her again. Like, she never came home. And so he over-indexed on that. He's like, that's not going to be my future. And he became almost machine-like. But it was in the work of the story. It's like, oh my God. Like, and as he told that story, he started to realize, so he told that story at his all hands.
Yeah.
When he was done, it was like a standing ovation. People were lined up to talk to him. And why? Because for the first time, the dude was relatable. Yeah. People located themselves in his story, and they would run through walls for him.
Yeah, there's a power there that needs to get emphasized more, and God bless you for doing it.
Thanks, man.
Let's talk about something real. Operator syndrome. Is that a real thing?
I don't know. I mean, I've read the book, and I certainly identify with a lot of things in it. I don't know that I'm qualified to say that it's real or not. I know that a lot of the things that are identified within it, I have or I've experienced.
Yeah.
And, I think that, look, whatever it is, when you are immersed in the cauldron of combat, particularly over a 20-year period or a prolonged period, your brain changes. Your chemistry, your body chemistry changes. I know mine has.
Yeah.
And I know I am still, like, even on the way over here today, just going through it. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, there's things that happen in my life that will take me to high order. And I immediately reset back to what I did in Afghanistan as a way to navigate that. And it's not appropriate.
Yeah.
but yet it's what I go to. And I don't know. I do think there's something to it. And I don't know that we necessarily know the answers, but if we don't figure it out, I really worry about the mental health of the GWAT of the global war on terror generation and what follows. And I'll add this to it. The moral injury, in my assessment, that was heaped upon our war fighters in the way Afghanistan ended, has exponentially compounded the problem.
I mean, so I'm going to jump in on a personal note because I was in Afghanistan when Trump said, "Hey, we're leaving," and I was a Sujita Alpha, director out there, had NSOC responsibilities.
Yeah.
And people looked at my bio and they said, "You worked at the White House. Is this real?" And I'm like, "It's a presidential order." Yeah, we've heard this before, but we're gonna act accordingly. And in that moment, you're right, 100%, because 20 years of war will change a nation and its leadership.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm bringing the tie-in of operator syndrome is because there's a story there that isn't being told that's relatable to you. I mean, you've talked about it on the TED stage where you're like, "Hey, why is a Green Beret going to write a play?" Well, then you had to struggle with it for 6 years. You just shared that with our audience today. It takes a while to figure out how to process that. And like people, when they start looking at time, they don't realize that the memories that you have are what relates to your life and its span of life.
Yeah.
When you're a kid, everything's new. So the years go by so slow, but everything's so fast, right? And then as you get older, you start to become conditioned to certain things and your years slip by because the memories are gone. But you're still creating memories, Scott.
Yeah.
You're still creating memories, not only for you, but for a community and for a lot of people that need to figure out their own stories.
I think there's such an intrinsic danger in coming home if we're not careful. I think Sebastian Junger did a good job with Tribe talking about coming home. But I do think there's an intrinsic danger when we come home from service, particularly service in combat, where we start to think or believe that type of service can only be followed by suffering. And that somehow we are doomed to suffer because of the decision we made to serve and sacrifice. And I don't think that's true. I think that it can be true, but I don't think it's inherently true. I think that what allows us to break out of that, if we can and if we choose to, is relevance. I feel like, and that's what I was, and believe me, it did not go well for me in the beginning, to the point of a pistol under my chin. But what I did learn on that journey, and I'm still learning, is that for me, it's not about my ability to point back at what I did and ride that wave into the future. Like that, I think you see that a lot, and I think it's fraught with peril.
Right.
And it's killing our community. We're literally turning on each other now. Yeah. Because we're still trying to ride that wave.
I agree.
However, I also think there's a pathway to do a version of like what you're doing, where there's reinvention of the self in pursuit of relevance in the new arena. And that's terrifying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we get conditioned by the world's most powerful corporation to think a certain way, do a certain thing. And then we go off the path and do unconventional things in a gray space.
Yeah.
And then we leave that.
Yeah.
And then it's on us to define our own mission and what we're going to do to give back.
Yeah.
And that is scary, man. It's 100% scary. But we all have to operate our own lives, man. We all have to be the hero of our own lives. And if we're not doing that, then we're doing something else.
I think we have to be the protagonist in our own story. And to take what you said, even further, I think that's the whole thing, is that, our brain works in story. So life is story and story is life. And when you come home from the military or whatever transition thing, whether it's a job that you worked for a certain number of years, or, whatever that first hero's journey was, I choose to believe that, okay, if you're still here and you made it to the home shore, whether you achieved what you wanted to or not, you're home, right? But you're different. You've changed. What have you learned? And I believe, and Pressfield, he has a wonderful approach to this in his book, The Artist's Journey. But Pressfield says that if we choose, there's another journey that's waiting for us. And it's in the wake of the hero's journey. And he calls it the artist's journey. And that's the journey that we can step out on. That's the same framework as the hero's journey. But this time we actually know what the hell we're doing a little bit. And we ride that one till the end of the line.
I like that hero's journey concept and how we can ride into it. But I want to marry it with Homer's The Odyssey. The word mentor is relatively new to our vocabulary, and it comes out of Homer's story. And mentor was the person that advised the king when he was, taking care of the family when he was at battle.
Right.
And I see that the whole hero factor hasn't changed, but the mentor has, in that now people are picking up their phones more and are getting mentorship from people they don't know. And that'll change the narrative on your hero story all day long and twice on Sunday.
Sure.
How can someone control their influencers? Let's put it this way. Are there any daily rituals or habits that you are practicing now that allow you to continue your hero journey?
Yeah. And by the way, something I want to say too, because I know so many of folks watching this are humble. In this case, hero does not mean like hero in the modern sense. It is a protagonist.
Yeah.
It simply means you are the subject of the story, right? So please don't let that trip you up, because a lot of times I've seen that get in the way. I don't want to talk about myself, but the thing is, actually, stories are not about you. Stories are told in the service of the listener, even if you're the protagonist. Why? Because autobiographical listening, like we talked about, they locate themselves in your story, in your pain, in your journey, and they make sense of their own lived experience. It's the most generous thing you can do.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Let's dig into that, because Goggins puts it in his book. One of the first things he says is, this is my story. I'm not the hero of my story. I'm like, bro, you should be the hero of your story. It's your story.
Yeah.
Like, I'm listening to this because not because of somebody that you met.
Yeah. I think that's an unnecessary aversion.
Right.
It's understandable in the way that modern society has conditioned us, particularly in the military, to not think like a hero. But that's not what this is. In this context, hero means protagonist.
Yeah.
You are the subject of your story. And if you dismiss yourself as the subject of your story, then someone else becomes the subject of your story. And I don't think that's healthy.
No.
And I think that's what happens to many of us as we come home, is we do that. We basically outsource our agency, and we no longer are the protagonist in our story. Right? We're just a supporting character.
Yeah, if you're not controlling your own timeline, someone else is.
Right. And so, but again, the cool thing about it is that it's all rooted in struggle. It's all struggle to resolution. That's what people key in on. In fact, I was interviewing this guy on my show, Dr. Kendall Haven. He wrote the book, Story Proof, and he's a scientist, and he's researched story with DARPA. He was an Army officer, but this dude, he knows how the brain responds to story. And I asked him about that, and he told me he said a lot of people leave struggle out. And he said a lot of veterans leave struggle out. And he said, what I've learned is this: if you leave struggle out of your story, not only will your audience pull out their phones and dismiss you, they will turn on you.
Yeah, because there's nothing to relate to.
There's nothing. It's 5 ways to be great like me. And if you look around today, that's what you see.
Yeah.
Here's how I did it. And it's unwatchable.
Yeah.
Because you sit there and you go, well, I could never do that. But the reality is they're leaving out half the story.
Yeah, they're leaving out the struggle.
There's only the resolution. And if you do that, what you're doing actually is you're creating insurgents inside your audience that either dismiss you because they can't get where you are,
right,
or they're actually assigning motives to you that are not helpful to what you're trying to do.
Yeah, you got to turn your message to a message. And if you're not doing that actively, it'll become a mess again.
Yeah.
And I love how that's framed.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is we all have tons of pivotal moments from our lives, whether they're trauma, grief, or just challenges. What I'm saying is simply work on the ability to talk authentically on those. And how did you change and what did you learn?
Yeah.
Like, that's it. If we just did that, and we did that, and leaders did that in a consistent fashion, think about what that would look like.
It would change the world.
I think it would.
Absolutely. All right, Scott, I got one final question for you.
Yeah.
go back 10 years ago. We won't talk about the pistol holding that happens with so many of us. We'll talk about successful a lieutenant colonel, a Green Beret before you're thinking about retirement. What would you tell yourself that you didn't know now, or you didn't know then that you know now?
You're just getting warmed up. You're just getting warmed up. Like, dude, you're not going to believe what happens next.
The transition is surreal. Like when you get out, it's weird. And then you figure it out. And it takes different amount of times for different amount of folks,
and it's clunky and it's ugly and like my dad, like I'll bring it back to where we started. Like when he died, he did a podcast on the American Chestnut like 2 weeks before he died, and I went back and I watched that podcast.
Yeah,
he was signing off.
Good God, man, don't do that to me, man.
He was signing off, and he and I always had this saying with each other. Skid the car in sideways, man. Like whatever you do, when it's done, skid that friggin' car in sideways and step out knowing you gave it the full ride. And I think that's probably what I would remind myself.
That's amazing. Have you heard the poem from James McCrae yet?
I think I have.
The instructions before visiting Earth.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, I'll pull it up. I read it to Sheriff Lamb, and he's like, that's powerful. And it's new, but it's a signing. I want it read at my funeral. Okay, James McCrae.
Yep.
Instructions before visiting Earth. In the event that you wake up and find your soul separated from source and manifest in the material form, don't panic. Your condition is only temporary. You've been selected for the opportunity of human incarnation. This 3D simulation is designed to break up the monotony of eternity by giving you a fully immersive experience as a distinct ego identity. Your body will serve as your physical avatar, and you'll navigate a dense and dramatic reality. There'll be many distractions, causing you to forget your true nature and origin. You'll experience a range of emotions from joy to loneliness to despair. But remember, no matter what trials and tribulations you encounter, your soul remains perfectly safe. At times you may feel lost and afraid. This is totally normal. If you ever need guidance, simply slow down your busy mind and bring your awareness to the quiet place inside yourself. On this planet, nothing is permanent. People and things will come and go. You'll fall in love and form sentimental attachments only to lose everything you hold dear. So cling to nothing too tightly, even yourself. When it's time to go, let go with grace. For nothing is owned, only borrowed. As you walk among the people of this planet, try to be a good guest, tread lightly, remember that you are only visiting. Try not to make a mess. Listen more than you speak. Give more than you take. Don't keep your soft heart locked in a glass cage protected from wear and tear. You'll never make it out alive, and time passes by quickly. So come back with some battle scars and some good stories to tell.
How about that? That is fantastic. That is, yeah. That'll be read at 2 funerals. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Thank you for sharing that. That's fantastic.
It's,
get that.
I'll send that to you, but
beautifully done. What a poet.
Yeah. You might recommend a McCrae name because that's the reason why they wear poppy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
wow.
All right. How can people find you?
Well, scottmann.com, I think, is the easiest. That's where all my body of work is. I hope people will check out Generosity of Scars and come see the play. And most of all, I hope people will tell the story they don't want to tell others, and most of all, the one they don't want to tell themselves.
I love that. I hope they win the fights that they tell no one about.
Yeah, man.
And I'm glad that you won yours.
Yeah, me too.
I'm going to give you this. This is our flag.
All right.
This is the ginger beard flag. It looks like the black beard flag, but it's got a ginger beard on. I've given it to everyone who has made it through. It's for people who don't quit.
Yeah, man.
So Mike Tyson has it. There's a lot of celebrities. There's a list somewhere, I'm sure.
It's very elite, and I recognize that.
Yeah, brother.
And it will go on the wall of honor for our play.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for your time.
Man, thank you.
And I appreciate you coming in to break in the studio.
Yeah, man. It's awesome. Thank you.
And for everyone else, thanks for joining us. Once again, we get amazing guests like this because you hit like, subscribe, and all the other things that you do on YouTube. But if you're listening to this podcast is definitely one you're going to want to watch. So check us out on YouTube. We can't wait to bring this episode to you for a lot more people who are going to benefit from this. Send it to them. We know that they'll get something out of it as well. And until next time, aim for excellence and stay on target.
Stay with us as we stay on target with another awesome episode coming up next. We'll see you there. And subscribe to Targeted Now. As an ambassador to buckedup.com, I get to give you our special discount. That's Atlas 25 when you go to buckedup.com to get that special discount. Only for our listeners, Atlas 25. Go to buckedup.com now.
Entrepreneurs, you're wasting money. Are you paying for TV, radio, maybe even newspapers? I gotta tell you, that's all dead. What's new? Well, I'm glad you asked, Atlas. It's podcasting. Just so happens I have a very successful podcast that I can put you on. And we're looking for guests. So if you have a product or service that will help people, hit us up. Atlas Aultman Targeted Podcast. We bring new audiences to new people, and we bring new people to, well, you check us out.